wonderful to see you. I skipped every other interview. I came straight to here.
Nobody says no to you, Jeff. I can't say no to you. I've known you my whole career. I can't say no to Jeff. No one can say no to him.
Amy, hi. How are you?
Oh, my co-star.
You're the second coolest dude I know, next to you.
People love you, Jeffrey, and everybody. You have more access to more people than anyone I know in comedy, and it's because people enjoy you.
If you don't know who Jeffrey Gurian is, if you've seen someone where you're like, who the fuck is that? That's Jeffrey Gurian.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Episode 7 of The Alarmist Conspiracy Theories and Coffee. Today is not a day for me to have coffee. I already had my cup of coffee. Why? I'm on the show and full of energy. Anyway, today we have an amazing, amazing guest. I've known Jeffrey Gurian for over 30 years. He has written comedy for some of the greatest talent in the world of entertainment. He has written books, and now he has a documentary about his life. And I'm telling you, if there's anybody that's more deserving of this, it's him. It's an amazing moment, and I'm going to bring him on right now. Jeffrey Gurian.
Hey, Jeff. How are you, man?
How are you, man? All right. Welcome.
Thank you so much. So good to be on with you. Great show.
I am so proud of you, man, that you have come this way, and you actually have a movie that is going to leave a legacy for your children, for your family, and your fans and friends. Tell the audience how this all came about, why it came about, and give them a little taste of all the comics that you've crossed paths with, legends that you've written jokes for, and explain how that all works. It's not a conspiracy theory, Jeffrey. This is a real, true story.
You have 2 hours. First of all, it's a crazy thing. It's a very odd feeling to have a film made about yourself. I was on SiriusXM earlier today, and I was saying it's exactly the opposite of humility. You know, it's very egotistical to say, yes, there's a film about me, but I seem to have an unusual career, several careers all at the same time. And I was contacted by, believe it or not, 2 different groups of filmmakers. It's like an embarrassment of riches. 2 different groups of filmmakers contacted me to ask if they could do a documentary about me. This is the first one. It's a short doc, and it has to do with how I combined comedy with being a cosmetic dentist and a professor in oral medicine and orofacial pain. And
tell people what the name of the documentary is.
Can I curse on here?
Yes, you can.
Oh yeah, it's called "Who the Fuck is Jeffrey Gurian?"
Yeah, but what's the name of the documentary?
but you know what's funny about it? Because I have a channel called Comedy Matters TV, and I have over 500 interviews with everybody from Jimmy Fallon on down, and Mark Maron is in it, and Nick Kroll and John Mulaney and Amy Schumer, Amy Poehler. Every big star is on my channel.
Who came up with that name, though?
What? Who the fuck is Jeffrey Gurian? Oh, it came from a video that an editor made for me a few years ago with all these people saying really fun stuff about me. And it starts with Mark Maron saying, for the last 50 years, the only thing that you'll find in comedy is Jeffrey's hair. He said, that's the only.
Has your hair ever been late to an event?
He said, that's the only thing that recurs over the last 50 years. He goes, and it's an honor and a privilege to speak to this hair and this head. And then at the end, every year I go up to the Just for Laughs Festival in Montreal, and it's the biggest comedy festival in the world. And they give me entree to the red carpet for the Just for Laughs Awards, which is the biggest award show in comedy. And so I'm on the red carpet. Well, actually, this time I wasn't. I was next door doing interviews. John Mulaney is on the podium, and he's welcoming the entire comedy industry. Everybody's in there. And he says something like, I hope someday to be walking through the hotel and I see a picture on the wall, and the picture is taken by Jeffrey Gurian. He goes, and if you don't know who Jeffrey Gurian is, if you see some guy, you say, who the fuck is that?
Andy Kevin was just just rolling his eyes. And the photo was taken by Jeffrey Gurian. If you don't know who Jeffrey Gurian is, if you've seen someone where you're like, what the fuck is that? That's Jeffrey Gurian.
And thus the title of the film was born.
Right, and I wasn't even in the room. Someone sent that to me. Luckily, they got that footage, and they sent it to me. They said, did you hear Mulaney talking about you?
That's great.
Like, no, because Nick Kroll and John Mulaney have been so wonderful to me.
You've written for like Jerry Lewis and Rodney. Explain to the audience how that works when you write for somebody that iconic. Like Jerry Lewis he was known to be incredibly, he could be cantankerous, he could be nasty.
But not the way that I met him, which was very interesting. I was the main writer for the Friars Roast for 12 years. And at the time, the Friars Roast were being produced by a guy named Bob Sachs. And Bob said to me, we're roasting Jerry Lewis, and I want you to go to his hotel room and work with him on his speech, because he had never been roasted before. And so that was my job. Like when Bruce Willis was roasted, I worked with Bruce to write his speech.
So you go into his hotel room and you lock yourselves in there? How many hours were you with him?
2 nights. Just the two of us for 2 nights alone. And he couldn't have been kinder. And one of my greatest stories, he was not like he was in later years, or people always said a very difficult person. He sat with me and told me how he and Dean Martin got started, told me a million stories. And while I was with him, he got a phone call that they discovered the cure for the Duchenne form of muscular dystrophy.
Oh my God.
And he started crying. Tears were running down his face.
You were there? You were there when that happened?
I was there, just he and I alone.
Oh my God.
To share that moment with him was really, truly amazing. And then he went on to do my material at the roast, which was just incredible.
How does that feel when you see a guy like, he's an icon? How did it feel when he first uttered one of your jokes?
I got to work with Milton Berle. Mr. Television was my sponsor in the Friars Club. Ron Bennington from the Bennington Show on SiriusXM recently said that I'm the only guy he knows that knew and worked with the greats of yesteryear from the golden age of comedy, and is friends with all the YouTubers from today. All the comics. I bridged the gap. I bridged the generations from those days to the young comics of today, because I've been covering the comedy scene for 20 years. So when Milton Berle sponsored me for membership in the Friars, that was one of my greatest honors. A lot of people today might not even know Milton Berle. He's the reason people in this country bought televisions.
Right.
That's why they called him Mr. Television. The Texaco Star Theater had such a tremendous following that people would gather in the street to watch TV through the store windows. Because in those days, a lot of people didn't even have a television yet. I think that was probably in the 40s. So whenever I would be with him, it was unreal. It was like when you were talking about Frank Sinatra with Bill Boggs. When Frank Sinatra passed away, I was in LA. And I called Milton because he said, let me know when you're out here. And he got on the phone with me and he said, I want you to know something. People are calling me all day for remarks about Frank Sinatra because they were very close. He said, and you're the only call that I'm taking. He said, I don't want to talk to any press, but I wanted to talk to you.
Wow.
He got a kick out of the fact that I was also a dentist, because he used to talk to me about his
You talked about teeth?
He used to talk to me about his teeth because he had so many problems with his teeth and was spending so much money on implants and stuff. And he just got a kick out. We used to sit at the Friars Club together, and we would talk about comedy.
And you talk about molars.
We would talk about comedy and then his teeth. Yeah.
Did he ever open his mouth at the Friars Club and go, Jeffrey, can you take a look at that? I got a little filling here.
He did the kindest thing for me one day. He really saved my life. It was after my divorce, and I was going through a period. I was very sad and depressed. And it was a very, very cold winter day, and I was coming back to my little apartment on 76th Street, where I first met you. That's where I was living when we first started hanging out, on 76th Street. And the phone was ringing as I got to my door. And I raced in, not knowing who it was, of course, and I'm sure that he wouldn't have left a message. And I picked it up on the last ring, and it was Milton Berle. And he was calling to ask how I was doing.
Oh my God.
He invited me to be his guest. He was being honored as the Man of the Year from the Friars Club. And he said, would you like to come and be my special guest? And I was the only one that he invited to come with him as his special guest.
When I see that documentary and they took a pan of your wall of fame, tell the viewers who was on that wall. Give them a quick, like, the top 10 list.
Everybody from the last 30 years. Well, Jim Carrey, Nick Kroll, John Mulaney, Amy Poehler, Amy Schumer, even women not named Amy. There's like Billy Crystal, Robin Williams, Dice.
Now you have this amazing sense of humor, and I remember when we first started hanging out, you had the man in the fins that was and the woman with the cream cheese. Where did these? Did you have a very traumatized childhood?
Those are the only things.
Explain to the viewers what these bits are about and where they came from and why they're so goddamn funny.
Well, when I first started, I love absurdism. That's my favorite kind of comedy. I actually wrote a book called Man Robs Bank with His Chin. And the way I got started at Saturday Night Live, meeting Alan Zweibel, which is part of this documentary, was I was doing little crazy films on my own with my Super 8 camera. And I would do false news items, like several men were arrested for smearing cream cheese on the ankles of elderly women who wore their stockings rolled down like bagels. You ever see the old women with the stockings? They look like bagels to me.
They still exist.
I got my grandmother, my dear grandmother, had such a great sense of humor. She made believe she had a Jewish accent. And she
Was
said,
that your grandmother in the video?
Real grandmother. Yeah. I put Groucho Marx nose on her. And I said she just came from Ireland. Her name is Mrs. O'Goyam. And she says, you know, in the Jewish religion, we have two kind of stockings, one for milk and one for meat. She goes, and this crazy man, he smears cream cheese on my meat stockings, and I can't get it off.
He smears my feet with cream cheese, and I can't get it off.
And then I did a special on, it was entitled Prominent Businessmen Who Wear Swim Fins to the Office. I snuck into a hospital at night with a surgical crew, and I got a heart surgeon wearing swim fins who tells me why it's important to wear swim fins during surgery.
You really got a real life surgeon.
A real surgeon.
You didn't get arrested. Nowadays,
he was affiliated with the hospital, and he snuck us in at night. And we go to an operating room. And I remember shooting it with my stupid little camera. I could have done so much better, but in those days, that's all I had. And
so tell me, where does this comic, the way you see the world, the way you find this absurdism, where does this come from? Did your parents drop you on your head when you were very young?
I had a very strange childhood. That's all I think about is like heavy men dancing. I did a film called Men Who Dance Where They're Not Supposed to, and Peter Dinklage is the star who went on to become from the Game of Thrones,
right?
I think he'd be one of the biggest stars in the world. He's dancing in a film where a sign says no dancing on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and he gets arrested for dancing in a no dancing zone in the middle of the street. He's dancing.
Where does this come from? Where does this?
My head. That's all I think about is stories like that.
But what was it like growing up in the Jeffrey Gurian household? Was your father funny? Was your mother funny?
My father was very funny. Both my parents had a great sense of humor. And my father used to take me to comedy films to see Laurel and Hardy and Amos and Andy and the Marx Brothers and who was that other two? Any comedy films that were around, my father would take me to. And that's how I fell in love with Woody Allen when he was doing stand-up in those days. And that's how, in the documentary, it shows how I met Woody Allen and how he read all my earliest material. And I wound up he encouraged me to make films. And I made the Men Who series about men who do very unusual things, like men who take a pitchfork to the movies, men who enjoy life.
But you know what Woody Allen said about you? I remember reading that you were all your comedy was very visual.
Very visual. That's what he said. He said you should think of making films. And years later, when I got friendly with Jack Rollins, who was Woody's manager for so many years, and who had introduced me to Billy Crystal, because he wanted Billy to play me in a sitcom, which is also mentioned in there. They wanted to do a sitcom about a dentist who wanted to be in show business, and he wanted Billy Crystal to play me. But
who was going to play your hair?
they had a stand-in for that, right?
I mean, this is why you have a documentary film. Who the fuck is Jeffrey Gurian? Jeffrey Gurian is pretty fucking cool.
You know what? It's not even real to me. I look at it like as an observer, like I'm watching my own life. You know,
now you have a book. You have a book that's coming out as well. Why don't you tell everyone about that?
This book is out. I have a new book that won't be out.
What's the name of that book? What's the name of that book?
This is called Healing Your Heart by Changing Your Mind, a spiritual and humorous approach to achieving happiness. And it hit bestseller status on Amazon. And it's about changing the way you think. A lot of people like the meditating dog, but healing your heart is about, it's not about my heart attack. It's about, from the time we're children, we collect what I call heart wounds. Every time somebody hurts your feelings or breaks a promise to you or lies to you or hurts you in some way, it stays lodged inside of us in our heart chakra. And I call them heart wounds. And it affects your self-esteem and your self-confidence. And it affects every decision you make in your life. Because every time you're called upon to make a decision, you think about what to do. You use your thoughts. Who else's thoughts can you use? But if your thoughts are negative against yourself, if some of your thoughts are not valid, your decisions are not going to work out for you, which is why people have the same kind of things happening to them. They get the same bad job over and over again. They're in the same bad relationship. Nothing seems to work out for them, and it has to do with your thinking. In my case, I stuttered very badly through my 20s and beyond. I started stuttering when I was about 6 or 7 years old, and I stuttered so badly that I couldn't ever say my name. I could never say Gurian. Most stutterers have a hard time saying their name. And one day, as a matter of fact, in college, I made myself run for the president of the freshman class, telling myself if I could win the election, I wouldn't have to stutter anymore. And I won. I was the president of the freshman class of Hunter College, and I still stuttered. And it was a great lesson to me because it taught me that outside validation doesn't work. It doesn't matter how many people in your life tell you that you're wonderful and fantastic. It matters what you think of yourself. And I had to work on myself for many years.
Well, you know what? You know what? It shows in just the way you talk on camera. And when I see you, in social situations, you're a very aware person, and that's probably why you're so funny, because you use that awareness to find the humor in things. And you're also pretty serious. And by having a book like this, it shows that, it's not just about laughter, it's about heart. I want to thank you for coming on to make me laugh and to share that heart with us. I'm so glad that you're better now and that you have this great movie coming out. Watch Jeffrey's movie. Watch it. It's Who the Fuck is Jeffrey Gurian? We all know now, don't we?
Yes, you're the best. It's so good to be on with you.
I love you, man.
Wonderful show. Thank you so much.
All right. Be good, man. All right. Cheers.
My best to the family, okay?
I will. All right, man. To the family. To the family. Ah, what a great show. Jeffrey Gurian, Conspiracy Theories and Coffee, The Alarmists. Stay tuned for the next episode. It's going to be fantastic. We have a lot of great guests coming up. We have B.B. Buell, the mother of Liv Tyler, and a rock star in her own right. We have Chip DeFay, who is an amazing writer, wrote David Cassidy's autobiography. He's been a great writer for the New York Post, and many other great guests are coming up in the future. Thank you for joining us tonight. Be safe. Peace.